just a second. Let's circle this on 20F. This is B26, and I've written that in as well. What's the next diagram, Doctor?
20G and 20H. You go to 20G, that's fine.
Incidentally, just the general location where Dr. Golden drew that injury, is that an accurate depiction of the area that's actually seen in the photograph?
Yes.
Now 20G, why don't you show us if you would, please?
This is the same injury he has diagrammed here. And he's given the same measurement as 1.5 inches there.
Same measurement as he had given in the earlier form?
Earlier diagram, yes.
Okay, the 20F.
Yes.
And Doctor, well, let me circle this. Is the, and I'll write, I'm sorry, B26. Is the diagrammed form of the wound accurate? That is the appearance as hand-drawn accurate to how the wound actually appears in the photograph?
No.
In what fashion, perhaps you can use the pointer again, in what fashion is there a difference? We don't have the photograph up.
The wound doesn't have this forking, and it actually tapers off like a superficial incised wound here. So the wound diagramming is not accurate.
Let me just briefly put this up so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can have a comparison.
If you look here, there's no forking, and then it tapers off on both sides.
Now you said 20H, Doctor?
Yes.
And if Mr. Lynch can... Is this the 20H?
Yes.
And this, Your Honor, is the 20H that appears to have outlines of the human skull?
Yes.
There is evidence of hemorrhage underneath this incised wound, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And I just circled to the right upper quadrant, 20H.
And on that upper right quadrant outline, I'll write B26. Incidentally, while we have this here, Doctor, in the lower left quadrant of this same form, is there some outline that reflects on one of the earlier injuries that you've identified?
Yes, that reflects the hemorrhage underneath the bruise we discussed to the right side of the head.
Is that our B20 photograph with the contusion to the scalp? You want to just bend over a second here and take a peek at the...
This is B20.
And is this writing
Yes.
to reflect what is being diagrammed here?
Yes.
Can you identify what is said in that writing, Doctor?
It's a superficial temporal, and this is SGH, which is subgallate hemorrhage, 2 inches by 1.25 inches.
And is that consistent with what you see in the form of the contusion on the, under the scalp in the photograph B20?
Yes, but you can't see this because this is a diagram of the hemorrhage after the scalp was reflected. So this is the diagram the doctor uses to show the hemorrhage after you reflect the skin. What you saw in the other diagram was the diagram of the injury on the surface. I don't know whether we saw that diagram or not, and that was diagram.
I'm going to write B20 while you're finding the particular diagram.
The diagram was 22 and 20H.
Okay.
This 20H we have covered. That is the inner, that is the documentation of the hemorrhage underneath the scalp.
Incidentally, Doctor, while we've got this up, there's some other writing here. Can you, that's between the two outlines above and the two outlines below?
What he's trying to say here is that it's deep scalp hemorrhage under the same bruise. This also belongs to the same injury, and he says there was no abrasion or laceration.
So does all of this writing that is between the upper and lower halves go to the B20?
Yes.
And I'll circle that as well and connect up to the lower diagram that was circled. Mr. Lynch, I believe we need your help. And it's good to see that it takes 3 people from our office to get an easel to stand straight. Doctor, the other diagram is 22, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, let's get that up. We can take 20H down. Now, doctor, where on this particular form is there a reflection of that B20 contusion?
Right there.
Perhaps we ought to use the word mention, since reflection has a specific meaning within this context.
Okay, first of all, when you say the skin is reflected, why don't you tell us what that means?
As, I think yesterday when I discussed the autopsy process, I said when the head is open for examination of the brain, the first process is opening up the scalp, which is reflection of the scalp skin. So when we describe an injury on the skin surface is what we see on the skin surface. Once you reflect the scalp skin away from the skull.
Again, doctor, you're using the same term we're asking you to define. Reflect means what? Pull away?
Pull away. Pull away. And the scalp has got 5 layers. The letters itself reflect the different layers. Skin, C stands for connective tissue. And underneath the scalp, part of the scalp is a muscle called the occipitofrontalis muscle.
Excuse me, Mr. Kelberg, I was just getting you to try to use a different word than reflect as to the board.
All right.
That it mentions it in the report. That's all we need to do at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Doctor, why don't you point out where there is any entry on Form 22? Is that satisfactory, Your Honor?
It just shows the hemorrhage on the scalp surface. It doesn't show the hemorrhage in the deep tissues as we saw it on the skull diagram.
Is there any handwritten notation to go along with that particular outline that's on this Form 22?
The handwritten notation is on the 20H we already saw, and the combined effects of this description is seen on page 7, number 8.
All right, we'll get to page 7, number 8, but let me just circle this area on our Form 22, and this goes to B20. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
And I've done that in blue marker. All right, now which page, Doctor? I'm
Page
sorry.
7, number 8.
Mr. Lynch, could we move to the protocol? Is that correct?
Yes. Now I will explain both the diagrams so it's easy to understand. 22 shows 4 inches above the right ear canal is a bruise, and you can see here on the right side of the scalp, 4 inches above the right ear canal is a scalp bruise. Now if you go to the other diagram, 20H, you can see the rest of the information which is there is been dictated to be transcribed as number 8 in page 7.
Is this the diagram you need, Doctor?
Yes. He says that this bruise was red-violet in color, scalp bruise, 1 inch by 1 inch. You can see the red-violet, purple color, 1 inch by 1 inch. Deep scalp, with deep scalp hemorrhage, which he has diagrammed here. No abrasion or laceration. He has put skin is smooth, non-abraded, non-lacerated. Subsequent autopsy shows deep scalp hemorrhage, which is this one, which is diagrammed. And it measures 2 inches by 1 1/4 inches. I showed that, 2 inches by 1 1/4 inches. And he says that this is subgaleal. This is subgaleal hemorrhage here. And It's again shown that the wound is 4 inches above the right ear canal. So between the diagrams, you see, this is what medical examiners do, and that's why you need a pathologist to interpret the notations. We take notes on different parts of the diagram, and then when you dictate, you synthesize the data to give a composite report.
Doctor, and Your Honor, for the record, on item 8 on page 7 that the doctor was just referring to of the protocol, I'll outline that in red and mark B20, and I'll also indicate 20 form, 20H, and 22. Those are the 2 forms, Doctor?
Yes.
Anything further, well, are you able to determine, going back just for a second to B26, are you able to determine the relative positions of Ms. Brown-Simpson and the perpetrator at the time that injury was received?
No.
For all the same reasons you've given before?
Yes.
Is there anything further you wish to discuss regarding this contusion, either in the diagrams, in the protocol, or in the photograph? I think we're done with this, and we'll move back to examination of the hand photographs. I'm sorry. The addendum on the last sharp force injury, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll take down the protocol, and we'll put up Form 8B from Exhibit 349, Your Honor. All right, Doctor, where in the addendum is there a reference to this particular sharp force injury that's seen in photograph B26?
Roman numeral 2, item 1, the entire paragraph, line 1 through 5 of that description was amended to read, as that paragraph states, that the wound to the scalp is 1¼ inches in length, diagonally oriented, superiorly it's tapered, and inferiorly it is also tapered and continues as a superficial incised wound. So basically the entire description was changed in the addendum. Based on photographic evidence.
Doctor, from your review of the photograph, including the life-size photograph of that particular sharp force injury, in your opinion, does the addendum accurately describe the wound that is seen?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I'll, in the blue marker, outline this area on page 1 of the addendum and write B26 along the side.
Thank you.
Anything further, Doctor, regarding this sharp force injury? All right, I think we now are ready to move back to the photographs of the hand.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, let me invite your attention now to photograph B31 in the lower right corner of this array of photographs. What is shown?
Yes.
What is shown in this photograph?
B31 shows the palmar aspect of the right hand, and you can see an area of injury to the right ring finger, It's a superficial cut. But photograph is a little dark here, but there's a cut here. It's seen better in another photograph.
Which photograph is it better seen in, Doctor? If it's one of these that is on the board.
Yes, it's seen better in B12. You can see the cut here better. Yes, you can see it better here in this.
Keep your voice up, Doctor.
You can see it better in B12. If you use the magnifying glass, you can see it very well.
All right, and which finger is it again?
Right ring finger, palmar aspect.
Okay, and is this, in your opinion, what you would call a defensive wound?
Yes.
And are you able to tell in any generalized fashion the manner in which that was received?
It was a defensive wound which happened when Ms. Simpson tried to defend herself when she was being stabbed.
Doctor, is there more than that one defensive wound on the palmar surface of the right hand?
No.
What, if any, significance is there for you that there is one and only one defensive wound to the palmar surface of the right hand?
This would indicate to me that she was probably rapidly incapacitated and was not able to offer much resistance.
On what do you base that?
Because there's very few defense wounds in her upper extremities, because whenever you see defense wound in the upper extremities, that is the hands and forearms, that means the person was conscious and was able to defend themselves. But when you see a paucity of defense wounds, it would signify as a forensic pathologist that the person was rapidly incapacitated and was incapable of offering much resistance.
Doctor, did Dr. Golden address in his original protocol this particular defensive wound to the palmar surface of the ring finger of the right hand?
Yes, he did, but in the anatomic summary, he described it properly. But in the protocol itself, he described it in the report as index finger, but in the diagram, he has diagrammed it correctly.
All right, let's break this down. There is a reference to this defensive wound in the protocol, is that correct?
Yes.
And there is an entry on a diagram that reflects this defensive wound, is that correct?
Yes.
But there is a difference between what the diagram shows and what the protocol says, is that correct?
Yes.
Is either one of them accurate based upon what these two photographs, B12 and B31, show?
The diagram is accurate. The description of the wound in the protocol is wrong because it was said as index finger, but the anatomic summary reflects the injury correctly. The anatomic summary says right ring finger.
When you say the anatomic summary, what is that?
That is the front page of the autopsy report where all the injuries are summarized.
All right. Is this defensive wound one which, in your opinion, was received before death?
Yes.
And with respect to the minimum amount of time before death, would your answers be the same as they've been to the last series of wounds?
Yes.
Also, that this is not a fatal wound?
That is correct.
And in the big picture of things, does this have any significance beyond its significance on the issue of a defensive wound and the absence of other defensive wounds?
No.
Anything further that we need the photograph for, either B31 or B12, for the purposes of identifying that injury?
No.
Then perhaps we can, I believe we have till 3:30, Your Honor. If we could just finish with let counsel go through the doctors and then. By the way, Doctor, is the addendum, does the addendum include any reference to the difference between the diagram and the protocol description? I'm sorry, keep your voice up. Would you expect the addendum to include, I'll have to get that word out of my vocabulary, to include something to show that there was in fact this difference and to show which is the accurate identification.
Should have included.
Keep your voice up,
It
Doctor.
should have included.
And again, would that be a mistake by Dr. Golden? Significant on any of the big ticket questions?
No.
For all the same reasons?
Yes.
All right, if Mr. Lynch can put up, this is 0B. Where is there an entry on this summary that you described that accurately reflects the right ring finger defensive wound in photograph B31 and B12?
Page 1 of the autopsy report, Roman numeral 3.
And I'll outline that. And this is, I'll mark B31, B12, and I'll write the word correct in the margin. Now, doctor, in the same protocol, there is an inaccurate description provided.
Yes.
Where is that?
Page 7.
Where on this page, doctor, is that?
Paragraph number 2, right hand. It says there's a 5/8 inch incised wound on the volar surface of the right index finger.
And is volar another term to indicate the back, I'm sorry, the palm of the right hand?
Palm and
So-
ventral surface of the right hand.
So these are somewhat interchangeable terms?
That's correct.
But this is the description that we're talking about,
Yes.
and I'll write again, I've circled it in red, B31, B12, and it's this particular indication of right index finger that is inaccurate,
Yes.
and I'll write inaccurate after circling the right index finger area, and SB should be ring. Would that be accurate, doctor?
Yes.
Ring finger. All right, and you said there was a diagram that had an entry to indicate the identification of that defensive wound,
Yes. 23. Palm 23.
and I'll ask Mr. Lynch to put that up. And show us, please, doctor, where there is that indication.
It's on the right lower quadrant of the diagram. Yeah.
And doctor, is there an entry that is a written description of any type?
Yes.
What is written in there?
It says 5/8 inch tangential cut, skin avulsed, and he has given a diagram of the injury here. And actually, he has described that there is some forking to the ulnar aspect, that is this aspect of the wound.
The ulnar aspect being toward the little finger side of the
Yes,
hand?
this side of the hand. And we have to add that paragraph also in the description here.
All right, let me first cover this whole area that I'm circling here, doctor,
Yes.
indicates the defensive wound for B31 and B12.
Yes.
And is this an accurate description?
Yes.
And I'll write accurate. Incidentally, doctor, this word defense and is it antemortem that appears there?
Yes.
To which of any of these things does that go?
Well, if all of these are antemortem wounds, so it could reflect for all of them.
I think you used the wrong term.
He did.
It would have significance to all of them?
Yes.
All right. The area that you talked about, the ulnar area of the hand, the palmar area, is also discussed in a paragraph.
Yeah, the next paragraph here.
And that area I'll outline also in red on page 7 of the protocol and draw a line to connect up also with the B12 and the B31 of the first paragraph that you've already identified. Is that description in that second paragraph accurate
Yes.
and corresponds to what Dr. Golden has diagrammed in the lower right quadrant for Form 23?
Yes.
Your Honor, would this be the appropriate time?
Yes, it would. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the afternoon. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not form any opinions about the case. Do not conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you, and do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. As far as the jury is concerned, we'll stand in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. All right, thank you, counsel.